Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Not Your Culture podcast. If this is your first time here, the Not Your Culture podcast is basically a podcast where I talk to various guests from all over. This should be episode 4, I think, when it comes out. But the whole concept of the podcast is basically me having conversations with people about migration and culture shock, basically the experience of leaving your home country to move to live to somewhere else. Some people who I've spoken to have lived many places. Some people have lived in one different place. Some people have moved within the space that they moved to a different neighborhood or a different town or just a different part of that country. And my guest today, before I introduce my guest, I have to point out that it is very obvious that this is a different format from the 3 other recordings because my guest is not with me in New York or Saint Lucia because the last one was recorded in Saint Lucia. My guest today is Yogi, the producer, with a D.
I don't know what I was thinking when I made that.
It's a sign of the times.
It is, because over time I definitely changed the "the" to a "the." I was like, come on, bro, grow up.
But Yogi is a Saint Lucian music producer. He's based in Toronto. He has worked with artists such as Kelani, James Blake, Giveon, A Boogie with the Hoodie. I just checked. I wrote the Hoodie. It's the, right? It's the.
He's the. That's the funny thing. He's actually able to be the with the hoodie. So yeah, that's hilarious.
KO, another Saint Lucian artist. Savannah Ray, who happens to be Yogi's wife. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later. And he recently worked on a song called Needle on Nicki Minaj's new album, Pink Friday 2. Is it number 2 or 2? Just 2?
Pink Friday 2, yeah. Pink Friday
okay.
2, yeah.
That actually features Drake. So, I mean, he do anything. He's scored music for the critically acclaimed video game Spider-Man Miles Morales and won a BAFTA award for Best Video Game Soundtrack. He has also won 3 Juno Awards so far, and has been nominated for a total of, well, I just realized I didn't confirm with you. How many times is it now?
Probably 8 now.
Eight now? The bio had 9, so I don't know how it went down.
Okay.
But...
No, okay. So it's definitely 9. I'll take the 9. It's more for sure. And I'm pretty sure I got like nominations this year that I just didn't even go look into, to be honest. But
that's crazy. Suffering from success.
No, I'm grateful, mind you, but it's just, I was just like, oh, maybe I should go check. Like, just keep saying
you know, like one of the people that have so many awards, they use them as cups and things.
Like the Grammys, bro. Come on. That's crazy. Paperweights and shit. Yeah.
We haven't gotten the Grammy yet, but it's coming.
Not yet. It's coming.
Yogi's also signed right now to a publishing deal with hit producer Boy Wonder, with whom he works very closely on various projects. So, like, Yogi has done a lot of things as a Saint Lucian from a small village of Anse La Raye.
Yes.
All right. And you know, tell me the beginning, how you got into music. I know your mom was one of Saint Lucia's most recognized musicians and music educators.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, and then tell me about how you left your work in music in Saint Lucia, and then what inspired you to leave.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, bro, like you said, like my mom was just in music from God knows how long. So, like growing up in that family, I had no choice. Like it was, first thing as soon as you're ready at like 5 years old, it's music classes. So both my brothers went through the same process as me. Old enough to play piano, put you in music classes, and that's just it. You go to your music classes. As you get older, I get to a point where, she might realize like, okay, maybe you're not as interested in the music, so go ahead, go do your other thing that you want to do. And it turned out like my second brother, McLeod, he was the only one that like went more into like finance and that type of stuff. But he was actually better than me, like in piano, like in classes and stuff. So, but yeah, so at like 5 years old, I was in music classes. That's kind of how like the music journey started in terms of building my musical knowledge. And over the years, like, as you're getting older, your friends are playing sports, your friends are doing other things that's not music, and you kind of like, I don't want to do this shit. Like, I want to go do stuff with my friends. Like, I want to do what my friends are doing.
I can heavily relate.
So I was like, bro, I want to play basketball. Like, so I started. I was like, my parents didn't want me in any sport. They didn't want me in basketball specifically. So I stopped the music classes. Like, I would go sometimes, and like I would just like I'd beast classes, to be honest, bro. I'd go sit outside, not go to the actual class. When it's done, that's when I'd go home, so it looks like I went to class. Sorry. And then I'll do that sometimes, and then eventually just got to the point where like my mom realized like I wasn't too into it anymore. I loved, so I still had to play in church. Like, I grew up in church, so I still had to play in church every Sunday. I was still involved in my mom's choir, Sicilian Rays, so I still had to do that. So it's not like I wasn't, immersed in it still. It's just I wasn't doing the classes, which was necessary for like if I had to write the theory and practical examinations. You need to do the classes because you need to freaking practice.
Yeah.
So, and I did that, both of those, up until I want to say maybe grade 5 in both of those, theory and practical. So it was going well. I was like, bro, I'm off this. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then it was, I guess that's kind of like the foundation of the music. And then it turned into like me going to school in Jamaica for jazz and popular music performance.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. It was like a quick year for me because unfortunately that was the year my mom passed away, in the same year I left for school.
Okay.
So she made sure I was like, yo, you're going to school here. You're going to go. I didn't have a choice, by the way. I woke up one Saturday morning. She was like, yo, this examiner from Jamaica is here, from Edna Manley. Take your pieces that you've been practicing, and go up to see him. And I had to play him my pieces. I wasn't prepared. I played like half of the first piece. And then he was like, all right, cool, that's good. Then he asked me to play some scales. I did that. And then maybe like a week later, bro, I was shipped off to school. I was like, she was like, all right, bye. You're going to school in Jamaica. I was like, damn, bro, like I can't even stay and do whatever I want. Anyways, that's how I ended up in Jamaica. And then later that year, I had to come back home for my mom's funeral. And when I went back to school, I just, obviously the state of mind I was in, and me knowing also that I wasn't too interested in like being a performer, because that's what that class was for, really. I was just like, yo, I'm not going to stay here. I came back to Saint Lucia. And then, yeah, it's like that journey moved on to another one, which was how I ended up in Canada, basically. So, I mean, I don't know how far into the journey you want me to go, if you want me to continue going further into it, but that's essentially where my journey in Canada started. Like, after Jamaica, going back home, and then finding an audio school that I wanted to attend in Canada. And then, yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of wild. And everybody's like, and when I got to Canada, actually, everybody was like, yo, like, why would you leave St. Lucia? I'm like, bro, well, and it's a place I went to at first. Everybody chooses normal places. Yeah. My ass decided to move to Halifax, Nova Scotia, bro. And there's nothing wrong with it, but bro, it's like the most random, cold East Coast place, bro. It's like insane. But yo, the snow, like that's the first time I experienced like snow like past my knees type shit. Like just good, bro.
I think it's always interesting when like you hear, especially with Caribbean people, when they move out of the country to go to places that aren't the usual places on the map that Caribbean people usually flock to. So like, I mean, you're in Toronto now, so you're good. But
we're normal now. No, I'm joking.
Right. But like Toronto, New York, Miami, Florida, like Miami specifically, London, like that. These are like the main hubs where you find all the Caribbean people. So when someone is like, Halifax, it's like,
you're like, wait, this is not on the list of Caribbean places. Like Caribbean people. And the reason I chose Halifax, to be honest, is because my brother was already out there for school, and I'm like, yo, if I'm moving to a country that I've never been to before, I would at least want to go where there are people that I know. And it just so happened, Halifax, funny enough, there is a big community of Saint Lucians there because of St. Mary's University.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and I don't know, a lot of people don't know, but the reason that is because there's a professor that taught at St. Mary's that's from St. Lucia, and he used to come to St. Lucia to recruit St. Lucians for St. Mary's. So that's why that
Yes.
community,
Yes.
started building out.
When I was at A level is a community college for those of you who don't. It's actually the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, but A level is one segment of that. When I was there, I remember the recruiters coming from St. Mary's, and I think I have a
Oh,
couple
just
friends who
froze.
went to St. Mary's, other Lucians that I know. But okay, so yes, so you were in Halifax. You went to school. You were with your brother, and
Damn.
actually, I might be jumping ahead here because I actually do want to talk about this. But I gone to Toronto twice
Mm-hmm.
so far, and one thing I always loved about Toronto is like or well, Toronto is the only place in Canada, but the Lucian community
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
seems so tight knit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I stay home all the time in New York, so that's probably
Same.
why I'm not seeing people. Um,
Same here, bro.
but
So to be
the,
honest, yeah.
one of the things I immediately, and it could just be like by generation of people, the people who I know, but I've always felt so welcome in Toronto, and like I
Mm,
always feel like there's some. Well, I usually go during caravan, so that's why also there's something,
yeah.
always something happening.
Yeah.
But it still feels like the people who are there operate as a group, and the association of, like, there is like a Saint Lucian association
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in Toronto as well. And from what I can see, at least through social media and the people that I know, that you know they y'all remain connected, like, pretty
Yeah,
consistently.
for sure.
So tell me about your first impressions of Halifax moving there.
Yeah.
Had you been there before you moved?
Nope. Bro, that was literally my first time in Canada.
Okay.
Like I'd been as a kid, I had been to the US. Like I lived there for like maybe a year with my mom, but I was like 5, 6 years old. So I don't really
Uh-huh.
like remember too much of it. But
Yeah.
as an adult and also just Canada, because I'd never been there yet. So it was my first time to Canada. Yeah, I chose Halifax because my brother was already out there. He was at school at St. Mary's. And it was just an easy thing because I'm like, if I'm moving to a new country, I want to at least go where I have family. So that
Yeah.
was an easy decision. Plus, he happened to just find the school that like a school that I could attend, and I didn't care what school. I wanted to go to Center for Arts and Tech, not Center for Arts, Full Sail in
Uh-huh.
Florida, but that shit was expensive, and it was in Florida. And
Yeah.
now we see how crazy Florida is, so I'm glad I didn't go
Yes.
there in retrospect. So yeah, there's also that. I wouldn't want to be one of those Florida men that show up in a Google
Uh,
search.
you being a
But yeah,
Florida
so
man.
I went to Halifax,
Uh-huh.
and the school was called Center for Arts and Technology,
Mm-hmm.
and that made perfect sense because Mac was there, plus the school was there. So I was like, okay, cool, let's do it, and that's basically why I ended up choosing Halifax. Long story short.
Okay. And what were those first few
Um,
months like?
Go ahead.
Like, what were your first few months like there? Like, do you have any memories of, like, just, because I mean, as you said, like, it's your first time there. You mentioned a
Hmm.
little earlier, like, how cold it was.
Brother. Yeah, so
Did you go there in the fall?
no, I was a psycho, so I went there in the middle of winter because I love myself so much.
Wait, say that again. It cut off.
Oh no, I was saying I went there in the middle of winter, like top of the air, brick as hell. I don't have one winter jacket because I never lived there,
Yeah.
so I got off, bro. I got off the plane like when you're going through when you walk out the plane door itself to the
Yeah.
connecting terminal, whatever it's called.
Yes.
Bro, I felt that cold breeze on me, bro. I had maybe some kind of hoodie, some slim ass hoodie that would not obviously protect me, bro. I felt that. I was like, Jesus Christ, bro. And then yeah, so it was cold. My skin just felt like it was biting me. It was just hurting. My skin was just hurting, bro.
Yeah.
So it was insane. Like that already was like intense off rip, bro. Just cold, brick
I
as hell. I don't know what I
and
did that to
and
myself.
yeah, but you used to it now.
Bro, honestly, I guess And I was having a convo with someone about this recently. Like, yo, do you ever get used to the cold, or do you just like accept it? Do you just like you're like, hey, you know what? This is what it is.
I think you accept it, and then like when it's like deep winter, like you curse everybody and their mother.
Exactly. So it gets annoying. That's that's what it is. It gets annoying. So I guess you kind of get used to it. It's like, all right, cool. This is what it is. Whatever. I know it snows. When it snows, I'm gonna have to shovel my driveway. When it
Yeah.
snows and it's cold, I'm gonna have to go out and put on layers and start my car for like 20 minutes before I have to drive off. So there was so many adjustments, bro. And mind you, when I moved to Halifax, I didn't have a car and I didn't have to shovel a driveway because
Mm.
we are living in a shared apartment.
Mhm.
So the landlord took care of all that stuff. But off the cold alone, bro, and having to like walk out and go to school in that,
Yeah.
brother. Yeah, so that was a big adjustment. And I think also like, okay, so in Saint Lucia, you know, we know our bus
Mhm.
route. We know, okay, 3A whatever goes there, blah 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 blah. There's not really, you just have to know. Like,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
go on an app and say, oh yeah, so this bus goes there,
Yeah.
stop there. So you know what I'm saying? At first, when I got to Canada, it was like I was like, you know, it was kind of it made me a little worried like about getting around on the bus because I'm like, I don't know how does this work, but I realized like it actually has way more structure than I
Yes.
think, and I could literally just get an app, go and do it, and it says, oh yeah, so this stops here, here, and here. I just need to know where I'm going and get off at that stop when I get close to it. So that was an adjustment, like having to do the whole bus thing and in the winter, bro. I don't know, I didn't like it. Sometimes I would walk to school, but a lot of times I was late for class, so that wasn't really an option. So
Busting is real, or like just public transportation in general, and that's not something that I've. That's actually like the first chapter of the Not Your Culture book, which I think I talk about commuting.
yeah,
And like you're right, like in St. Lucia, we don't really have that much of a structure when it comes to transportation.
no, yeah,
Like there is a structure in terms of the buses have routes, but to say like there are like outlined stops on like an app, and you know, like you really have to know where you're going, and you have to know if I can imagine like if you're someone who has never lived there before, like it would be so difficult to figure out where you're going and where you have to stop. Even stopping, you have to shout bus stop driver, you know,
bro. Like I don't know if I'd be able to do that now because I'm and I'm an introvert, so like. Now, bro, I'd probably miss my stop. I'll be like, I'll wait for somebody to say stop and then stop where they stop and walk back. Just out of shame. I don't want to open my mouth. Yeah. Bro, how?
Yeah.
How did we do this?
Like in New York, we have the little cord you pull or the button you press. You know, stop requested. You know, like you're like, yeah.
Imagine your first time you go there and you just don't know. You're trying to say stop and driver. Everybody looking at you crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, driver, stop there. Hey, but not him. But that would be crazy if you actually had to do that, bro. From the back of the bus, though. You know, sometimes you got the double buses, bro. How are you gonna yell, bro? Oh my god.
But no, it's
different.
I will say like one of the things that I noticed instantly was like how easy it was, because even like with New York, especially like with Manhattan is a grid, and like it's really so simple to get around in New York. Like you can't, I don't believe you can get lost in New York. Like I mean, if you go like real deep on different ends of the boroughs, then like but in general, like the streets are named, some of them are numbered, like you can kind of figure it out, especially if you know how it works. Queens specifically is a different, it's a little strange, and people who in New York know Queens is the worst for getting around, but we're not going into that. But in general, it is pretty easy to get around, and then as you said, like with apps and stuff like that, it will tell you exactly what to do at any point in time.
for sure.
So,
And
Gasa,
yeah.
Gasa, next time you come, you taking a trade.
Bro,
Yeah.
you see that's you know how I feel about that, bro. I don't know how
When
you're gonna convince me to do that, bro, but yeah.
bro, you need to see the New York wildlife, and I'm not talking about the animals. Although you'll see a couple rats, I'm talking about
I know
just
exactly what you're
the,
talking about.
the
Yeah,
wild life. Uh,
brother.
but
Yeah.
let's let's really back it a little bit and tell me how you got from what was, because you are Lucian, and I mean
Yeah.
it's easy to like just be like point A Lucian musician
Mm,
from Anse La Raye,
mm,
point
mm-hmm.
point B um a million Junos and nominations. Like,
Yeah.
how is the transition from going from, because for lack of better words, you were nobody.
Mm-hmm.
You were
Mm-hmm.
never a
Mm-hmm.
nobody.
I know what you mean, bro. I know what you
But you
mean.
know, like in
Technically,
terms of the
yes. Yeah.
industry, how does
Yes,
one get
exactly.
from that point to another? Also being from somewhere else, because I
I
think that
know.
also is like just a testament to your talent. That like
Yeah,
your
definitely.
skill, your networking, and all of that must have been at a level where it's like, somebody recognize you and
Yeah.
and your talent. And I want to know how you got there.
Bro, I think for me, I always knew that I wanted. Okay, when I first got like I guess introduced, and I'm gonna go double back a little just because I spoke about how I got into music and like the practical side of it of playing music and music theory, but the way I got into like music production was a friend of mine. He was a producer. He produced and one day he showed me this program he was using to like make music. I was like, "Oh, what the hell? I didn't even know you could do that. Like, what is this magic?" And
Uh-huh.
then it was FL Studio, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And then he showed it to me. I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And that was like, I remember after I saw it, I went home because I didn't have a laptop or anything then, and I just kept on thinking about it. I was like, "Yo, this cool program, blah 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 blah." So that was the first time I saw music production in action.
Mm-hmm.
And then later down the line, I eventually got my own computer and I was like, oh, I remember this program. I want to go try it and learn it and whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
tried it, hated it. I had it for I had it for 5 minutes. And back then, bro, we're on dial up. So like downloading like a 10 megabyte file takes hours. 10 megabytes. You know what I'm saying? So I
Kids
would
today will never
download it.
know.
Bro, they will never know, bro. I'm saying hours all day waiting for this to finish. I'll get it, use it for like 10 minutes. I'll be like, yo, this is stupid. Like, how do I make this sound good? This is dumb. So I would do that for a bit, and then that was kind of like I did that for off and on for maybe a few years, and then eventually I took part in this camp. Oh, not a camp. It was a workshop, a 1 week workshop with I forgot his name. So Casey Phillips, the engineer from Trinidad, his
Mm-hmm,
dad
mm-hmm.
had a workshop
Okay.
for a week that I attended with my mom randomly.
Okay.
So we both did the workshop. We learned how to like record a 30-second commercial, edit it, blah 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 blah. So that was like my first taste of like, oh, this is how you use a recording program to do
Uh-huh.
this, this, and that. And I met someone there who worked for Axela Marketing, which is a marketing agency that had a built in-house production company or team
Mm-hmm.
rather. And that's when I really started to like get my feet wet in like okay, making commercials, editing, and it was just because I went to that class, I learned a little bit enough to be able to go into the program and move around and do stuff. And then one of the
Mm-hmm.
senior engineers there, like I was just shadowing him, watching what he did, learning how to put that commercials together. And I did a lot of commercials like for the first I don't know year or so because that's what the company did, commercials. We
Yeah.
weren't into making music. We'd make
Yeah.
music sometimes for commercials, but we had sound libraries for that.
Yeah.
And at that point I still wasn't good enough at music production. So from there, what I started to do though was when I would get paid, I would buy little bits of equipment, right? The first thing I did was I bought a mixer, like a 6 or 8 channel mixer, or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and a microphone along with a mic stand, blah 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 blah. I didn't know how the hell I was hooking anything up. I didn't know what I was doing. I just got the stuff and I just started buying the equipment anyways. Um and while at the studio, that same job, they had a Mac in the back of the room. Nobody was using it. It was just there. And I'm like, yo, what is this?
Uh-huh.
What computer is this? So I went to started learning, because with Mac, you got the one mouse, blah blah blah. It's different from Windows. So
Yeah.
obviously I was intrigued by it and I started to just fiddle around with it. Funny enough, that's how where I learned to use Photoshop.
Okay.
Yep, super random. My journey is so ridiculous. It goes so many places, but
But the puzzles
because
came together. The puzzle pieces
exactly,
came together. Yeah.
exactly. So I was using Photoshop. Then I discovered Logic Pro on that computer.
Okay.
And by that point, bro, I already forgotten about FL Studio because like Logic Pro right there, this is easy. You have the loops, you have the little things you could drag in.
Yeah.
And I would say that around that time is when I really started to like discover like, yo, I actually love the process of putting sounds together.
Yeah.
I mean, not knowing I was being a music producer or whatever,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
enjoyed it and I started to like pay attention to it and try to get better and started like, researching and learning about music producers. By
Mm-hmm.
the way, that was the time I learned about Boy Wonder
Okay.
in my story. Imagine that from all those
Yeah.
years. And that must have been
Yeah.
like in 2011, maybe before I
Okay.
moved to Canada.
Okay.
So yeah, that was like sort of a foundation where I started learning other programs and learning that there are multiple programs that you could
Mm-hmm.
use and they all work kind of differently, but you could achieve same results. And yeah, I would say like that's kind of like my introduction to like actually doing it and being interested and starting to get good at it from there. Now, in terms of how that plays, like my story and how I managed to, come to Canada, blah blah blah. I just always knew once I got into that, once I was at Axela Marketing, I just started to feel like, yo, I feel like I could do something great with this. Like I feel like I started watching videos on YouTube of like Timberland in the studio and Boy Wonder. There aren't many videos of Wonder, but I started learning about him and his drum
Mm-hmm.
kits. But I just used to watch videos on YouTube of like big producers in the studio. That was my shit.
Yeah.
That's what inspired me. And every time I saw it, I was like, yo, if I could, bro, I wish I could be able to do this. Like go in a studio with the big console and the booth and like just be
Yeah.
sitting in there and like just being
Yeah.
in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from that time, bro, that's all I would see. Like that's all I could see in my head, like being in a big studio and doing my thing. And that just made me want to keep pursuing it. And that's
Yeah.
when the idea of like, after my mom passed away, that's when the idea of like, yo, my dad asked me like, yo, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to go back to school? And I just told him, honestly, I do, but I don't want to go learn. I don't want to become a performer. Like, I want to learn audio
Yeah.
engineering and production. So that's when we made the move to Halifax and I got there. So from Halifax, basically, the funny thing is down the street, well, the next street from me, you know who lived there? Kale. Kale lived the next street from me. So that was easy to set up because the
Yeah.
first thing I did when I got to Halifax was I had some money saved up from Saint Lucia from working. I bought like some speakers, a keyboard, basically a home studio setup, interface, blah, 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 all that stuff. And that's where I would, operate from basically at my home, in my room, my small little room, had my setup in my bedroom. KO obviously lived the next street down from me. So the soonest we could link, just to like, to welcome me to Halifax and we went out and grabbed drinks and shit and just talked. Obviously from there, we just started working, like putting in work and like making records. We would have sessions at the house often. Sometimes we'd get access to the studio at my school because I was going to school there.
Yeah.
Um, and then just working, bro, together, like just making records. And at that point, I'm still like learning. I'm still trying to get better. I'm still in school. I wouldn't say there was anything like amazing happening with my musical skills at that point. It was still just
Hmm.
me trying to figure it out. What I was doing a lot of was playing a lot of shows with KO because I played the piano too, right? So I would do a lot of live performances with KO, and that kind of helped me like build my playing skills even more. I mean,
Uh-huh.
Jamaica did that as well because of I was there for like classical music.
Yeah.
So, the going to Jamaica, and I mean just looking back at my story, that was also a very like important part of my journey because that's where I kind of started to appreciate the musical technical skills more and
Yeah.
how I could apply it, and I knew just enough so I could do what I needed to do later down the line. Mind you, the
Okay.
kids in my class in Jamaica, bro, like these guys were prodigies. I don't know, I got in that class and heard them playing. I'm like, what am I doing here, bro? Like, I cannot play like these guys. I cannot play like these guys. And I'm talking about like now these guys are playing for like, Jack Hure or like, Sizzlers, the Barris Hammonds of the world.
Yeah.
That's the type of shit
Yeah.
they're doing now. Like one of my boys, his name's Elton. He plays guitar, he plays drums, he plays bass, he plays piano, and he plays all of them like at an exceptional level. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
I could play it. This boy, he plays. And he's on tour with Damian Marley now, so it's like it's
Oh, dope.
dope to see like that happen. But yeah, I picked up a lot of technical playing skills from doing the Jamaica schooling.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped a lot in Halifax with KO. Because of the work we were doing, like, at that point too, KO was like really like buzzing and going crazy in Canada. And he was doing a bunch of tours.
Yeah.
So anytime we'd go on tour, I would be on the road with KO. I would be the only student in my class that was already like kind of in the music industry in that way. I would get time
Yeah.
off from school to go tour. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they'd,
Yeah.
they'd
Yeah.
allow me to do my assignments early, my tests, my final exams early to get out of school and then, go tour.
That's
So
so dope.
it was honestly crazy because like that's literally what I'm going to school for, like the music industry shit. And it still ended up, the funny thing is it still ended up being me performing because I would be playing
Yeah.
piano and like singing background vocals for KO. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So I
Singing
still,
background vocals is crazy.
yes, bro. A lot of people don't know that too. Like I was like the not the hype man, but I
Yeah.
was doing his doubles and his ends and like harmonizing and like I was singing and like rapping and shit. So there's probably footage of that somewhere around laying around. But yeah, and I think yeah, I would yeah, we had a DJ that would run the tracks, but yeah, I would just play. And that was dope. It was really good. I got to see a lot of Canada because of that. Like everywhere, bro. We were like east to west coast, like we were in a lot of places. So yeah, that was like another part of my journey where it's not necessarily linked to production or whatever, but my playing and constantly like being on the road and just like being in that environment taught me and showed me a lot about the other side of the industry where it's like there's the creating the records, but there's also like marketing the records via touring and performing and
Mm-hmm.
performances and different I guess protocols that go into touring, like tour management and having to book hotels ahead of time and planning the routes and riders and blah 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 blah. So,
I'm
anyways, yeah, go ahead.
it's I think it's so interesting that we were literally just talking about like you randomly being in a place like Halifax.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, there was a Saint Lucian community, but like again, like Halifax feels like such a random place. And here it
Hmm.
is like one of your starting points up there musically
Mm,
was like working with another Saint Lucian,
crazy,
and
right?
that introduced you, I guess, into that industry up there. That's actually
Yeah.
like really, really like so cool. And I mean, again, like I'm very big. One of the things I bring up all the time in conversation about people about the difference. I mean, it exists here, but you have to find it more. But the importance of community,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there's something special about going somewhere and being meeting like some level of familiarity. you
Yeah.
know.
Yep. Yep. Agreed.
You mentioned even like I wanted to I want another phenomenon and I think it's very interesting is like you could be in Saint Lucia, Saint Lucia being a very small place, in whatever industry you are, there, yes, you might not be the best, but there is a certain level of comfort of knowing everyone who is working
Mm-hmm.
in that industry. And there's a different level of intimidation that you feel when you go somewhere else, like when you went to Jamaica and
Yeah.
you with people you in a room with people who you feel that are so much more talented than you and feeling that imposter syndrome in that place.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's crazy that I'm sure even in St. Lucia, regardless of whether you weren't doing it academically at that time,
Mm-hmm.
but like you probably knew all the other great musicians in Saint Lucia as well, or none of the other great musicians in Saint Lucia. But there's a level of intimidation being around strangers who, who are better than you in a different place, which is kind of
That's true.
ridiculous to an
Mm-hmm.
extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
No, it
how
is. It
how
is. That's
how
crazy
we
how it
frame
works.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, for real. Because
because
you're
I
right.
felt that
We.
because
Yeah.
and I think it's because we're in now that you're placed into that box that you're all in, that room that you're all in, we
Mm-hmm.
can't help but to compare ourselves to the other
Mm-hmm.
people in this space,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
opposed to your original place where there were probably people just as talented, just as
Mm-hmm.
skilled, but the box felt wider,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Your only context in Jamaica was music,
Mm-hmm.
learning music, going to school for music as a performer.
Mm-hmm.
And in St. Lucia, it was I'm doing music, but you know there are other
Yeah.
people doing music, like over there and over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had the same experience, except like I also did classical music training when I was very young. Similar, like
Mm-hmm.
just like you, I did it up to a point. I think I only got to like grade 2.
Yeah.
But like I got to a point where I just told my mom like, yo, I don't like I like music and all, but like I don't like practicing. I don't like going to
Yeah.
lessons, and my mom was pretty chill about it. She's like, well, I don't have to. That's one less bill I have to pay. It's
Fair.
fine. Like, do your
Yeah.
thing.
So you got the easy way.
Yeah. As you know, like my undergrad degree was in music technology. I
Yeah.
came back a decade and a half later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm in a class with people who have been working on music their entire lives and knew probably for a very long time this is what they wanted to do, to work
Mm.
in sound or music production, that kind of stuff, and being in that space. And I'm like, yo, I don't even remember my key signatures, bro. Like,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Heard that.
like
Heard that. Heard that.
um I mean, after some time I realized like, okay, there no one is perfect. There were a couple of perfect people. I go like there were some people that like really knew what they were doing, but like, but like there were, as time went on, I started realizing, okay, no, you got in because you have talent, and
Mhm.
you're not here to focus on other people's journeys. You're here to focus on your own.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
and stop looking at these people as like intimidation and more looking at them as like, oh, how can I collaborate with this person? What can this person teach me? What can I teach
Mm-hmm.
them? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And yeah, it's you kind of have to transform the way you think about these things.
Yeah.
So, very, very harsh segue, but going back to you and
Yeah.
Kale touring. So
Yes.
what is the next step? How did Yogi, the producer, come,
You got it. You got it.
come out from this?
Yeah. So basically, after all that, like, once I was done school, it was time to like actually make a plan. Like, okay, yo, you have the education, you're done. What are you gonna do? Um, during my time there, we'd obviously like made stops in Toronto because of tour. So
Mm-hmm.
couple times, and like it was intimidating. So it never crossed my mind to be like, oh, yo, like we should move to Toronto type thing. Because I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing that. That's a big city. I don't know what I'm gonna do over there. So I was working at Future Shop, which no longer exists, selling computers, cameras, whatever, tech stuff. And then my bus ride home would be like 2 hours from work.
Mm-hmm.
So one day on the bus, I'm like, bro, I do not like this, and I wanna be in music. I wanna make music. I feel like I just need to do something different. And the thought of Toronto came to mind. I was like, yo, I should just move. And it was perfect timing because around that time I was working on a project for someone which would have paid me enough to get first and last my flight there and
Mm-hmm.
get a little more just to chill for like a month or two and I have to figure it out. So yeah,
Yeah.
bro, I got home, looked for flights, booked tickets. Within a month, I was out of Halifax, and it worked out proper too because my brother was about to move to Alberta anyways.
Uh-huh.
So we he left maybe like a week or two before me, and by the end of that month, I was on my way to Toronto. Like me and Kato actually, we moved at the same time. I didn't have a plan. We had our place to stay. I didn't know how I was getting a job. Blah 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 blah. Fast forward, I landed in Toronto. I text a friend of mine I went to school with in Halifax. I was like, yo, what's
Mm-hmm.
good? I'm in Toronto. I moved here. You know, I'm looking for a job. He was like, yo, what's crazy is I just turned down a job at a studio. I'm going to pass you the information. Called, got the job. And at that studio, bro, the day I landed too, I got the job and it was like a summer gig. So it was like a month and a half, almost 2 months. And then
Uh-huh.
it was actually at that studio I got even more into commercial work, but I started learning about sync and composing for film because that's what those guys did at that studio I was working for.
Okay.
It was privately owned, and I worked on like commercials for like Degree, like the deodorant.
Mm-hmm.
There's a company out here called Sportsnet, like ESPN, like that type of thing. I did a bunch of, I did a series for them, like I was working on it rather, doing like audio editing and post production stuff. I did some stuff for Cheerios. Like I did a bunch of commercial work, and that was a good, which also plays into what I do now, like the Miles Morales stuff. It was a lot of stuff I learned from that
Yeah.
time that I was able to apply and figure out how scoring works and all that type of stuff. So that was the starting of my Toronto chapter, I would say, like the next level of my career where I would now like, meet Sav and meet Wanda and
Mm-hmm.
start to level up and meet like real industry players from Canada because a lot of them were in Toronto and I think that's where the real like step up and professional like work started being put in my opinion, you know.
Okay.
So I think that's like the real start. If I were to pin it down, because that's where literally like the the pieces started coming together and real moves started to be made. And not that everything before it didn't count, they did. They were just the foundation for me to now do what I am doing in Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
But I think there is something interesting and impressive of that transition from Halifax, which it's not a big city like Toronto. Toronto, as you
Mm-hmm.
said, like Toronto is where it's happening, and so there must have been like so much. Well, it's not really competition per se, but like there are
It's a
more
bigger
people
pond.
out. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
bigger pond.
it's definitely a bigger pond, and
Yeah.
and like bro, like I said, I moved to Toronto, and I didn't know anybody in the music scene aside from KO and
Uh-huh.
maybe people I've seen on TV like Cardinal Official or like
Yeah.
I know of the people who are doing it in Toronto, but it's not like I have a connect to them. So
Yeah.
moving to Toronto, it's like starting over and starting to build out that network once again. Same for Halifax, which was a little easier because, like you said, KO was already there, so
Yeah.
he kind of ushered me in and introduced me to Quake and Classified and Chris Knox, these different people.
Yeah.
And then Toronto was different because we didn't have that there. Neither myself or KO, but KO, I guess, because he was with EMI at the time, and he had his network there already, so it helped. But as far as me being a producer and trying to navigate on my own and trying to build out my own networks, I didn't have anything, and it was up to me to start to like, okay, go to events and meet people and connect with friends who were I knew from Toronto that moved back. I mean, I knew from Halifax that were originally from Toronto and moved back. Connecting with them and saying, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. What's good? Like getting into sessions, meeting other musicians, and you know how it goes. You just kind of start to build from
Yeah.
there, and then next thing you know, you're
Yeah.
freaking signed to Boy Wonder and making Drake records. uh,
It's true. It's true. No, it's honestly impressive because like another thing that I you can I definitely relate to is the idea of like the amount of effort now that you in this big pond, the
Mhm.
amount of effort that it takes, extra effort it takes as someone from a small island where you kind of know
Mhm.
the people already to like be unknown and try to figure out, okay, how do I get myself known? How do I get to where I want to be? You know, how do I
Mhm.
go from one place to the next because I don't know anybody. And now I have to be put
Exactly.
in. You said you're an introvert. I'm an introvert too. People don't believe me, but that's another
I don't believe you,
conversation.
but that's another
Um,
convo. Whatever
how
you say,
how
bro.
as a no how as an introvert you have to step out of your shell to like talk to different
Mhm.
people and put
Mhm.
yourself out there, like do the work, to
Mhm.
get to where you want to be. I think it's something that prepares you. It's something that I really really treasure. Like it's
Mhm.
hard, but I really really treasure how much living away has forced me to step out of my shell. You doing this
Yeah.
alone, like
Yeah.
like I'm constantly thinking like what next, what else can I
Mhm.
do? And especially as a
Mhm.
creative as well, like I'm constantly pushed. It's also like the people around me as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Everyone's moving,
Yep. Yep.
and you're inspired to move as well.
Mhm.
Wow, did that just die? Oh well.
Mm.
You inspired to move as well. 1 second.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. False
Okay, it didn't
alarm.
die. It just timed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I was saying like there's no way that died so quickly. Yeah. So no,
Inspired to
yeah,
move as well.
definitely
Yeah.
like the big pawn definitely like pushes you to be
Mhm.
better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it really is up to you to pretty much like create your own path. You
Yeah,
know.
bro. You have to because
Um.
I feel like it's just like if you don't do it, you're just gonna be standing by and watching it all go past you.
Mhm.
Like I was doing things that I never thought I would do. Like I'd be going out and they're like, you know, going, bro. We would go to Juno pre-party events. They were free. They're not free. You'd have to get on guest list, but they were not even the Junos. They're not even like directly connected to the Junos. It was just the little events that would happen around the Junos. And to
Yeah.
me, that was the
Like
biggest thing
fringe
ever.
events.
Yeah, exactly. And it
Yeah.
would be like, to me, that was the biggest thing. Like, yo, we got into a pre-party for the Junos. Like, I was feeling myself, bro. Like, and that was so big. And looking back at it now, it's like, look where I'm at now. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
attending. I'm being invited to the Junos because I'm
Yeah.
nominated and I'm winning.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just so crazy to think about. And I mean, I don't take that. I don't take none of it for granted. Like, I appreciate every part of the journey. But all that to say, I remember I went to one of the Junos pre-parties and I ran into Wonder Girl. And for those of you who don't know Wonder Girl, she's one of the biggest like female hip hop producers you could think about from North America right now. And she's incredible, a great friend of mine. Like she's so amazing. And I met her there. And at that point, bro, she had already done, and she started young. At that point, she was maybe 17. She had already done a Jay-Z record, guys. Like I'm talking
Oh.
fresh, already got a Jay-Z record under her belt, bro. So
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
meeting her. Of course, my damn phone was dead. So I can't remember how I ended up getting her number. We exchanged contacts and then she hit me up. She was like, yo, I got this record. Like, no, she wanted me to mix her beats. I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I'd
Okay.
love to. Like, anyways, we made it happen. Long story short, bro, like it was shit. The beat, like I did not mix it properly at all. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. It was not what she wanted. Like I just overdid it. I overthought it. Like it just didn't work out. And she like she obviously never hit me to mix a beat again. Just funny to think about now because it was just like a moment in like learning and maneuvering that you
Yeah.
kind of like you start to figure different things out like hey maybe if you're not good at mixing a beat or confident with where you're at, you probably shouldn't offer to do it, because
Yeah.
that could have ruined my future with like maybe developing with her. We just happen to be great friends now, and like,
Yeah.
but looking back at it, it's just like there's so many things you have to teach yourself by doing it alone. And
Yeah.
to your point, that's why it's important to have people around you who probably are more experienced than you, who could like
Yeah.
teach you these things and watch how they work, because they will give you the motivation to keep going. And thankfully, like, I always somehow attracted people who could like I could like talk to and get advice from, or we're
Mm-hmm.
like at the same level, so we're on the journey kind of together, because I would see them at the same events and I would see them
Yeah.
here. And then as you keep going, like I said, you just kind of start like compiling, like the steps forward. Like it's like you're taking each step, you're building those blocks. And for me, the real change, or the real like swivel, where it's like, oh, I'm like actually about to like really start to do the shit that I envisioned from way back, was when I met Sav. Because
Mm-hmm.
the time I met Sav was also when she had just got connected to Wanda. It all happened like around the same time. I
Mm-hmm.
was at a recording studio that I was working at for free, and in exchange, I'd get studio time. So I'd engineer there for free, and then I'd get studio time in exchange. And the person I had to work with was Sav. The owner was like, "Yo, I have this
Mm-hmm.
artist I want you to work with. Her name's Savannah Ray. All you have to do is come here on Fridays to Sundays, work with her, record her songs, and that's it. And you could have the studio whenever you want." And the beats we would write to were Boy Wonder beats. So we
Okay.
would write songs, and the owner would send it to Boy Wonder. So we had no idea whether he was hearing it or if he liked it or whatever. We just knew that's what we were doing every weekend.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, I guess, a segue
Yeah.
into like how I met Sav and how we kind of
Yeah.
started building. So yeah,
That's so dope.
that was like kind of that to me, that's like another chapter of like my journey. Like if I were to pin a chapter, that would be like the start of another one, where it's yet another level of like progression, where things started to, major change started to happen. Yeah,
Okay.
bro, it's crazy. It's crazy. You really, I think the thing that kept me going, bro, I'm a daydreamer too. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like seeing my like that big studio thing eventually happened, and like all the stuff that I thought like I used to daydream about eventually happened. So I feel like, as far as the journey and me being able to come from a small fishing village and go to Canada and then move to Toronto, is just like, it's like, bro, you just, it's it's that will and that like determination to just see it through all the way, because you just had that thing in your head from you're a kid, like, oh, I want to be in the studio, I want the big mixer, I want this, I want that. And as long as you're
Yes.
thinking about that, bro, the entire way through, I feel like that's the only and true way to get it done. I mean, you have to work hard, obviously, that's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
I think all those things are like obvious.
But it has to be on top of mind for you to see the opportunities as they come, and then also attract them as well.
Yeah, bro, and that's a
Yeah.
big thing. It's like attracting them, and it's you really. I think when people hear like, you gotta eat, sleep, and breathe it or whatever, like you really do. Like you have to get up and want to be successful in the music industry. You have to want to
Yeah.
be the best at beat making. You have to want to like learn and get better every day. So I don't know, I think it has to do with a lot to do with also like, and it's very common, is stepping outside of that comfort zone, where it's like, I could have stayed in Halifax and been comfortable. My brother's here. I know this place. I'm familiar with it. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
stay here and chill. Nah, you
Yeah.
like, I took myself out and I was like, new city, new mission, new game. Who's this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's start again.
Yeah.
Let's level up.
Yeah. 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 No,
So
that's so dope. And
yeah.
and no, that is exactly, I get exactly what you're saying.
Mhm.
And what I also love is like, so you've also like taken some of your knowledge and your network and stuff like that, and you've worked with Saint Lucian artists and creators as well.
Mhm.
So you not only doing what was done for you in Halifax and what's been done for you in Toronto, but now you get into where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
You've I want to talk about one, what you've done with other Saint Lucian artists, but also like living in Toronto now.
Mm-hmm.
You recently took a trip home, and I know you I know you didn't want to leave.
Did not want to leave. I did not want to leave at all, bro.
Where's your mind at when it comes to Saint Lucia? You know?
Like in terms of the music industry,
Music industry, just life in general, because you know it's because you've lived in Toronto you've
right,
lived up there for a while now, you know.
right,
It's
right.
been
You know what? Like going back, I really started to notice like the very like obvious differences in like I don't know, bro. I feel like when I get to Saint Lucia, I'm a very anxious person, but when I get to
mhm.
Saint Lucia, bro, that all goes away. Something
Yeah,
about being there, not being in a big city and like the hustle and bustle, it's like you feel relaxed. You feel like, oh, I don't have to rush to do this.
yeah.
I don't have to get on the freaking highway and you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's that trip to me was the most relaxing trip I've ever had. And it's like I really started it made me appreciate St. Lucia even more, you know,
Mhm.
the small island, the close-knit community, like
Mhm.
it just made me appreciate more. I was like, yo, how did I not notice this before? And you know, it's obviously to like Sav is she's not from there, so
Yeah.
seeing her reactions to it, I'm like, wait a minute, like what? This is kind of fire, you know what I'm saying? Nah, it's like you're right. No, it is fire. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm from here. Yeah. So nah, it
Mood.
made no for real. It made me realize and appreciate it more, bro. And I think when I look at it too, Saint Lucia and being from a small island has a big part to play in like my resilience and my like just like I'm I need to work hard for whatever it is,
Mhm.
especially because I'm from a small island, and to prove the point that
Yes.
like yo, just because you're from a smaller island, it doesn't mean you can't do like you know, things in a big pond or a big city, you know, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
That doesn't define who you are. It's like
Yes.
you could be from anywhere in the world. You could be from God knows wherever. You could still go over there and do just as good and learn what you need to learn and like stand out. And
Yeah.
that was, I think, that everything I learned growing up in a village, the community, you know, like being super humble, being willing to like reaching out to people and helping people out where I can. Like it's just
Mhm.
that's like looking really like when I think about it, it molded me into the person that I am today, and it I think it plays a big part in like why my journey went the way it did. You
Yeah,
know,
100%,
so
100%. People can that's part of the appeal as well, I think.
mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm,
it's you come from that place of community, and so like the way you interact with people is different
mm-hmm,
from
mm-hmm.
someone who lived or grew up in a more individualistic society. You
Yes,
know,
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely something that's an appeal, and people feel the difference in you, even if they don't like know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it is.
Yeah,
I
they
think
could
people
tell.
can feel the energy, and
Yeah.
I agree. Like even with me, I do definitely um feel that like my upbringing, I wouldn't give it up for anything. Like my
No.
upbringing in Saint Lucia,
Mm-hmm.
like I will always just I will always like, you know, look back at them. And actually every time I go back home, because I go back home somewhat frequently, at least once a year. I've been back
Mm-hmm.
um at least once a year since I left. But like it's becoming more and more apparent like the specific things that are different. You know,
Yes,
I can
yes.
actually, as you said, like you can point out
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even the community thing. I just recently, I think it was a trip last home where I was last year when I was home, where I was just like, yo, like I love all of these people, like a lot, like so much, you know what I mean? Like I really like being around these people. And not that I love being around my friends in New York, but
Yeah.
it's the abundance
Yeah.
of community.
Yeah.
Even with people I don't even know. Like
It's
it could
true.
just be the lady at the shop that I see that I get
That's
lunch
it.
from or whatever. Like it's like, yo, like these are my people. I saw a guy. Oh, this is what happened to me. I saw a guy who, when I was like in secondary school, when I was like 11, 12, I used to play football. There's a playing field at my home near my home in Saint Lucia. And I used to play football with the older fellas, like big hardback men,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. No,
And I was like this tall, but they would have let me play with them and stuff. This is like over 10 years. This is like 10 years ago at this point. And I'm at an event during Carnival last year, and I see this really tall guy. And I'm like, yo, where do I know that guy from? And then I realized, oh shit, like he used to be on the field. So I go up to the guy and I'm like, yo, did you play? I didn't even remember his name, but I was like, did you play football on the Ridgey field? And he's like, yeah. He's like, oh shit, like Jonathan. And I'm like, yo,
That's crazy.
I'm like, yo, like for this man to remember me, like only knowing him in that context.
Yeah.
And like there was something nice about just seeing somebody from my past that was just like, yo, like,
yeah.
we weren't friends or anything. He was just like one of the guys, one of the other 15 guys who were there at any point in time. But like, even that was just a moment where I was like, yo, these are my people. This is where I belong.
No, for real.
But we kind of ran out of time right now, and there's a lot more we can talk about, but and we might do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah.
But I want my final question for you. Thank you, first of all. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. This has been great, and I've learned so much about your background I did not know. Big up KO, because KO has been informed that he's supposed to be a guest on the podcast, so we can get the other half of that story at some point.
Yeah.
But but my question for you is, where is home for you?
Bruh, honestly, I think, I don't know, like, I feel like home is just wherever the music is, bro. That's home. Like, wherever the music is, you'll find me there. And like it's wherever I could find peace, like wherever I could chill and like just find peace, bro. Like I think that's it. It doesn't have to be, and that could be with friends. It could be with my wife. Me and Sav spend a lot of time together. Like that's my road dog. So like wherever we're at, bro, I'm good. Like that's it. So it's wherever any of those things could come together, to me, like that's home. And in the actual practical sense of it, I like, Toronto is home because it's where I reside. I live here. It's a huge part of my life. But Saint Lucia and Anse La Raye is like always gonna be like the true essence of like, okay, yo, this is home. Like I'm the most at ease there. I'm the most relaxed. I'm at home. You know what I'm saying? There for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, felt very much.
Yes, sir.
Bro, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. This was great. And already, I wish you all the best. More things to achieve. Sir. 10 more Junos, Grammys coming.
Yeah, no, I need a paperweight Grammy, so we need to make that happen. But yeah, nah, bro, I appreciate it. And like I always tell myself, like I'm not a huge talker, but I always end up talking the most when I have to talk about my story, because I feel like for a lot of people or anybody out there who doesn't know, like, yo, you could do it from a small island or from a village or whatever it is, it's possible. So it's not so much I like talking about myself. It's like, yo, I want you to know, like, I did this and I started here and still ended up here. So you go for it and you can do it as well, type shit.
Yeah. Thank you so much, bro. I hope you have a good night. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, brother.
And
likewise.
we'll talk. We'll catch up.
Yes, sir.
All
We
right,
might have
bro.
to do the part two. Yeah. Peace.